All right. So, welcome to this week's episode. Hi, I'm Toya.
And I'm Amanda.
I'm a loquacious lioness here to connect controversy.
And I just like having thoughtful discussion.
And this is Contraversation.
Controversations.
Whoop, whoop. Put a one in the chat if you liked our new intro. Thanks for joining us. So tonight we've got some really interesting topics to discuss. We're going to talk about who is owed civil rights. We're going to talk about Margaret Brennan's take on free speech, and we're going to discuss the name of our channel. We've also got some surprises for you at the end, so I hope you stay tuned for the rest of the stream. And like it says here at the bottom, like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow us on Rumble. And
Slash
remember,
user slash controversations.
oh, right. You can also send us emails. So we're going to get into the first topic, but before we do that, I just want to say thank you to the nameless protagonist for reaching out to us via email and providing us with the subject matter for the first topic. So, our first contraband member, the nameless protagonist, for sending us that email. We're very appreciative. Want to give him a shout out. And the first topic is we only owe Black people, not gays, women, or immigrants, civil rights. That is a quote from Ann Coulter. She says that civil rights are for Blacks. And so I want to know, why was this controversial then, and is it now? What do you think, Amanda?
I'm not, I don't know if I know who that is.
Ann Coulter is
Yeah.
a political pundit that has been on many different shows. She's hosted news commentary. She goes a lot head to head with Bill Maher on his show. That's where I'm most familiar with her from. But through the years, she's just been a very vocal political pundit. And what I liked about bringing her into this conversation is that you guys present similarly. And so I think it's always interesting to hear what she has to say about controversial topics, because she never bites her tongue.
Yeah. No, I've
That's what I
seen
like about her.
looking her up now. I've seen her before.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
Okay, so in 2012 she said that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what are civil rights fundamentally? They were made after slavery was abolished, right?
Right. They were the answer to the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. And so, although the term seems general in nature, in my opinion, if we never had slavery to deal with, then we could use that terminology to blanket other groups. But I like the fact that she highlights it being for Blacks only, because it really did come out of and as an answer to Jim Crow laws and slavery. And so that really does only target a portion of the population. It does not cover immigrants. It doesn't necessarily cover women. While it does cover Black women, not
Mm-hmm.
all women.
Right.
So I just make the argument that, to your point, if we're thinking about the term civil rights, rights
Mm-hmm.
for civilians, then if that came about merely to answer towards everyone as a civilian, then we would be having a very different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we didn't name it correctly back then, but since it was the
Right.
name that we gave it back then, we've just stuck with it all these years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with her on that, but it seems like feminists fucking hijacked it anyway.
And she even says
And
that. She says we don't owe feminists.
yeah. Yeah, I wish she had do you have a clip for that?
No, but the link that I had in the outline is
Mm-hmm.
literally what she said in 2012, speaking with George Stephanopoulos. And I thought we could start there, but I do
Mm-hmm.
have a clip that the nameless protagonist provided us from Martha Griffiths on the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If you'd like, I can get into that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on.
Important changes that have taken place in respect to the status of women since you've been in Congress?
Well, I think perhaps most important was the one that added sex to the bill of 1964. This bill was drafted really to help Negroes. Now, it wasn't clear. It would have meant that Negro women would have been given rights that were not available to white women. Therefore, we added sex. It is my belief that the drafters had assumed that no women would get any rights. So that I think both white and black women were helped by the bill.
Mm. Mm. But what do they mean by rights? Because what I see a lot of feminists today spouting off as a right is literally a privilege. So are they talking about like the 19th, the quote unquote right to vote?
Well, I think if you're putting it into context of when this clip was made
Mm-hmm.
and what they were discussing, it takes on a different meaning than it would today. And so that was really why I asked the question, was this controversial then and is it still now, referring to Ann Coulter's take? Because I think what Martha Griffiths is talking about is more feminist leaning, whereas Ann Coulter is simply stating, hey, this term only applies to a certain group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so she is taking the stance that anybody else trying to get in the conversation really doesn't have a voice here. Whereas Griffiths is saying the only reason why feminists are trying to have a voice here is because we added sex to the conversation, which she makes a great point. If you're giving these rights to black women, what about white women? How come white women don't get these civil rights, but now you're pushing for black women to have these civil rights? So I think the conversation would have taken on a very different context back in the early 70s, late 60s, because it was new. It was something that was being presented that had never even really been considered before. And it paved the way to us getting to the point where we wanted to now have our own bank accounts and be able to own property. And, women were working at this time that this clip was made, but the nature of that work started to change approximately a decade later. So
Mm.
the conversation branches out when you start to ask, hey, is this a feminist issue? Is this a color issue, a race issue? Because the political climate today is very different from 1971.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we're seeing three women on a stage having a conversation about this, but even then, that was very controversial to do.
Really?
Don't you think, in 1971?
I guess for a show, I mean, three women getting together and having conversations has kind of always been a thing in the history forever, but
No,
maybe
that's
out in
why I
the
said on a
spotlight.
stage. They're on a
Yeah.
stage having a conversation. Yes, women have always gotten together and had conversation, but on a
Yeah.
stage to be publicly consumed, this is a big deal in 1971.
Mm. Yeah, I found the Ann Coulter clip.
Okay.
We only owe Black people, not gays, women, or immigrants, civil rights. See, I would like to see, before I make any kind of real statement, I would like to see it in context. Because I think I might agree with her, but I can't say for sure.
Do you want to play the clip?
Yeah, I would love to. All right. So this is 2012.
Comment in your book here, Mug, and I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminists, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the Black civil rights experience. What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated Blacks like children, and many of their policies have been harmful to Blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the Blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for Blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem, and the Republicans don't understand.
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe Black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
But you see,
Owing Black people something. I agreed with her when she was talking about how a lot of people treat Black people like children, and I think that is fundamentally fucking wrong. Treating people as a group like they're disabled in some capacity, I think does a disservice to them, and it's disrespectful. But this, it might sound like she might be like pro reparations, for instance. Like we still today owe Black people today because of shit that happened in the past, and I don't agree with that at all, actually, because I know we've talked about this before. How do you right that wrong, the injustice that you had nothing to fucking do with? Like, well, that's where the owing comes in for me. Like,
I don't think you task the average white person with that debt. I think you task the government with it, simply because what you said earlier in your statement just now, which is that you don't think it's right to treat a group of people like children. Unfortunately, that is what slavery did. And so because the history of treating Black people like they were things to be owned led to, now we're going to group this population of people as objects, which a lot of times is how children are seen because they are not able to make their own decisions or govern themselves independently.
Right.
That was largely what people saw Black people as. And so, to your point of how to right that wrong, simply because the legislation was laid out to support that treatment, I believe the legislation is responsible for righting that wrong. What reparations looks like is a whole nother conversation, but I do believe that Black people are owed something with reference to the contributions that was made to building this country. Anything else that any group of people have done to lay foundations in this country has been paid in some way. Other groups or ethnicities that have come here have been able to create lives for themselves and their families that Black families just have never been able to do, because we have been operating from a deficit that started way before you or I were here. And so in the same ways that I would never task you with that responsibility, I also know that I am not living a life that my ancestors lived, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But also there's I would say number-wise, there's a disproportionate number of Black people that are attached to government. Like
And
I
attached,
know,
what do you mean by attached?
like receiving some kind of benefit for the government assistance, like being
A
assisted by the
disproportionate number.
government. I would say so, yes.
Okay.
Like compared to, well, actually, I don't know, the illegal immigrant, but this is also with the feminist cause. The illegal immigrants are also like siphoning government funds. So their attachment to the government is the same. Same in the white trash community I grew up in. Like those people in that community, those families that are attached to the government, they also don't build any kind of legacy either. Their whole goal is to get that government check. Like,
Are you making a connection between that and reparations? I'm not sure where you're going.
yeah, because I don't know how, like when you said that you think the government does owe them something, what
Mhm.
would that look like besides what's currently being done? Because it seems like what's
Well,
being
I think
done
it
is
would look very
not
different.
working.
I think it would look
What
very different. This is where we
what would it do?
disagree, because I don't think that government funding for basic needs and assistance are anything to do with reparations. I think that is just making it so that people can um, live a dignified life, um, not be without a home. But I think reparations would look like being able to, for example, redlining, being able to undo the damage that redlining had done, where Black families were not able to buy homes in neighborhoods that they were shunned out of. Those are the types of things that I'm talking about when I say reparations. You're not, we have all this equity talk and this equality talk. And when you think about the picture of the kids, the one kid standing on 3 blocks to be the same height as the kid that doesn't need to stand on any.
Right.
Now, when you're talking about reparations, I think it is going back and righting those wrongs so that everybody has a similar starting point. Maybe not the same, but if I come from a family that does everything that they're supposed to do to make sure I get an education, and with that education, I take it and I try to make something of myself, but the person next to me who did the same things as me is able to get more out of that system simply because of things like redlining, that's where I think the disparity occurs. And so when you're talking about a disproportionate number of people taking advantage of a government funding or assistance, I don't see how that's possible sheerly based on our population.
Mm-hmm.
It's a known fact that white people receive government assistance more than any other person does, right?
Yeah,
So if
number
we're,
was.
and so this is why I think there needs to be a separation between that conversation and reparations. I don't think that those two things can be linked, because government assistance to live a dignified life has nothing to do with what your ancestors did to make a foundation in this country. Black people have borne the brunt of so much inequality that even in that we've become innovators and manifestors to the point that we can still live some semblance of a good life despite that. And so I think reparations has to answer for that disparity. I think it doesn't mean, I think what people misunderstand reparations to mean is that we all going to get some fat government check. And I don't think that that's what it is. I think it's really doing the work to dismantle so much of what has become part of the system that holds us back. Maybe you then
Right.
have less families who are dependent upon government assistance, because now we've gone back and we said, hey, we're going to take you out of these communities that were built to suppress you and keep you here and put you in a place where you can actually thrive. And now your next generation of your family has a better actualization of what they can be and do for society as a whole.
Yeah. I think fundamentally just having a dad at home and growing up with that puts
Right.
you at more of an advantage than growing up in a single mother household.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But these are all connected.
Dismantling the system that produces single mother households. How could we do that?
Well, this is again where I say reparations could actually be helpful, because it would say, instead of the school to prison pipeline, for example, let's take those kids who might be acting out in class and get to the root of that issue versus punishing them, penalizing them, and starting them on this path towards being a prisoner, which really is just enslavement all over again.
Yeah.
So I think that's
that.
one way that reparations could work towards keeping fathers in homes and having a more intact Black family. But how do we do that when there is no reward for dismantling that?
Right. The reward is for single mother households. There's no reward for two-parent households.
No, there
Right?
is. I think there is.
What
Because
is
if you take that single mother household and make it a whole family, guess what? Now you've got another family in the fold to bring to other families and say, we as families want to do this. We can mobilize in this way.
But what's the incentive from the government to incentivize that? I don't
The
see
incentive
anything
from the
there.
government is, hey, we did a wrong thing way back then, and this is what we're doing to make it right. That's the incentive. The dignity that this country seemed to have been founded on, the one that I learned about in social studies, can return back to its proper form. That's what I think the incentive is. If you want to be this superpower that we once claimed to be, that's how you get there. That's one way.
But there's currently no government incentives to incentivize. Like there's other countries that are providing major tax cuts for having more children and having a two-parent household. It's like up until like 4 kids or over 4 kids, you don't have to pay taxes after that. Like that government is incentivizing a nuclear family dynamic. Our government doesn't do that. It does the opposite. It incentivizes and gives all the cash and prizes to single mother households.
Right.
So if we had something in the government that switched that, would that be helpful in dismantling and helping a lot of the younger kids have a better start in life?
I think down the line, yes. Right away, no. But we've already did things the other way, and we see where that's gotten us. So do we want to continue down the road where it's, there's lots of potholes and detours, or do we want to forge a new path and make the road paved and nicer for everyone? I don't know. I just, to the points that are being made in the chat, it's about human capital, right? Like, you get more human capital if you give people the incentive to remain in an intact family and to create more. That just gives you more human capital. And so, that I think there's reason for pushback. So before we move on to the next topic, I just want to make sure we address the last question, which is, what does this say about the climate of equality today?
What does it say? To me, it says that the feminists just hijack everything. And whatever civil rights, whatever activism happens, like the feminists are spearheading it to their own, like, I don't know. I have yet to see any group or civil rights, anything with any kind of group identity behind it that isn't run by feminists. So if it doesn't disproportionately benefit fucking women, I don't see any activizing happening.
Yeah, I think what it says about the climate of equality today is that we're still not ready to have a real conversation about who benefits and who doesn't. Because to Ann Coulter's point, civil rights was never meant to cover women.
Yeah.
And so until we're ready to have the conversation of who it doesn't cover and why, then the climate of equality remains largely unchanged.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
You got anything more to put on it, or should we go on to topic 2?
We can go on to topic 2.
All right. So topic 2 is CBS's Margaret Brennan links Holocaust to free speech. She was quoted as saying, well, he was standing. Well, hold on. Let me pull up the clip. Let me see. I think I have some video. Give me 1 second. Thought I had it pulled up, but now I'm having to do it on the fly. Give me 1 moment. Yeah. I have 2 clips to show with reference to this, actually.
Okay.
But we'll start with the Margaret Brennan one once we get past the ad.
Oh, you have ads?
Yeah. Well, this is on thehill.com. I can't have a subscription to everything.
The Hill. That Jetty dude.
J.D. Vance rips Margaret for crazy exchange linking Holocaust to free speech.
On the other side of the Atlantic, it looks more and more like old entrenched interests hiding behind ugly Soviet-era words like misinformation and disinformation, who simply don't like the idea that somebody with an alternative viewpoint might express a different opinion or, God forbid, vote a different way, or even worse, win an election.
Vice President J.D. Vance used his first major speech on the international stage to berate European leaders. While delivering remarks at the Munich Security Conference, the vice president slammed the leaders for their response to different political views and, quote, running in fear of their own voters. Vance also defended the work of Elon Musk, whose Doge committee continues to dismantle and defund government agencies. J.D. Vance spent a lot of his time berating European leaders, likening them to Cold War tyrants. Do you think that this type of language endangers the U.S. influence in Europe at this point?
You know, it certainly creates more of that tension going forward. We know that there were a number of European officials, including from U.S. allies like Germany, who really pushed back on a lot of that rhetoric, equating it to a culture war, to being aggressive. And it comes at a time when I think a lot of European countries feel very vulnerable in the shadow of Russia amid this Ukraine war. And they would like the US to be an ally. And they would like to I think, have some sort of reassurance going forward that the US will have their backs. But they didn't get that reassurance in that speech today. They didn't get that mention of the Ukraine war. Instead, it seemed to be on these cultural issues that, quite frankly, sort of harkened back to the US campaign trail. So I think a lot of Europeans were angry or left scratching their heads, because this is supposed to be a conference, obviously, about defense and foreign policy. And that didn't really come up during these remarks.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of her. You know what? They totally missed the best part of that entire speech. Here, I'm just going to play that tiny little clip, because what he said before that was the most important. Yeah.
I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet.
Combating misogyny on the internet. He specifically calls out feminists. Of course, the feminists on the Hill definitely will not point that out. She's exactly who he was talking about. She's just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the manosphere has been dealing with for a long time. Like all these crazy bitches on the internet policing their speech when it comes to criticizing women and feminism as a whole. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Toya. I'm not a fan of journalists. That Margaret Brennan, American journalist.
Well, she said, and I quote, well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct genocide, and he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it, and you know that.
Who knows that?
I don't know. That's what she said.
That's what she said, exactly. Wait, she's one of your people. She's a journalist. Wasn't that your major?
Yes.
So she's your responsibility to sort out.
No, I think that's the beauty of journalism. It's that you present the information without bias. And I think it's important when we're talking about journalistic integrity to look at the full picture. As a journalist, I should never present information to you in a way that lets you know how I personally feel about anything. Right. I should just be presenting it to you in a way that you see however many sides there are. If there's 2, if there's 3, if there's 4, here are the sides that were presented so that now you can go form your own opinion. And that's always been my standpoint on anything journalistic. Now, if we are talking about my opinion, I'm happy to go into that. But I think, we talked about this before. A lot of the reason why I left journalism is because it was becoming so niche oriented, and that people were going to specific outlets because they knew that they would still have their sentiments echoed, versus seeing a full fleshed out picture of who said what, why, and where they were going with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't trust mainstream media.
Well, we've been given lots of reasons not to.
Yeah, that's why I enjoy watching speeches myself. And I swear there's one every day. Trump's signing executive orders, and I'll take questions and comments afterwards. And I know the feminists were kind of flipping shit after JD was speaking about them in Germany, because they're literally feminazis. And what they've been doing is what he's been pointing out. And what they're doing is now blaming it on somebody else, strangely. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using free speech to weaponize genocide, what's the difference of using free speech to weaponize gender or equity? I think that's never what it was meant to do. I have another clip.
Okay.
I have to say, I love President Donald Trump. I really do. There's so many things I love about him. I guess I'll start with his family. I love his family, his children, his white children. I love that they're white, and I love that they're blonde. Well, one of his sons is brunette with a beard, but that is okay because he is white, and I like that, and that makes me comfortable. I also love Trump's wife, Melania. Now, she's European, and that's a little different for me, and I don't like that, but she is white, and I like that she's white. Elon Musk, Mr. Elon Musk, lest we forget, is he white? I'm not really sure sometimes. He is. Oh, good water relief. I like his cars. I like that he makes cars. And I like that he's white. And J.D. Vance is white, Vice President J.D. Vance. His wife is not white. And that worries me. But it's okay because vice presidents don't matter. I just love them all, and I feel safe, and I feel heard, and I feel uplifted, and they're going to take care of me, and we're going to get the bad guys, and we're going to get them out of here. We're going to get them out because I don't like anything that's different than me, and we're getting them out. And they're going to do it, and I'm going to feel better. I'm excited about this presidency.
So that crazy bitch is pretending to be a Trump supporter. Like,
Yes.
who is that?
Yes, like I said, although it's comedic in tone, do clips like these support or refute what Brennan suggests? Because obviously she's being facetious, but I think what makes it comedic is that there's some truth in what she's saying.
Wait. Hold on. You thought that was comedy? Like you found it funny?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Mildly so. Obviously I wasn't like over here bowling over in laughter, but I did. I found it funny because I know that there are people who feel exactly how she's saying, but would never actually say those words. So the fact that she said it and she used her facial, responses along with her tone to get the point across made it funny because it's like, all right, I just like that they're white and white is right. For so many people, that's really all it takes for everybody to be white and everything's okay again. Harkening back to the previous topic we were talking about. Okay, if we can add white folks to the fold, yeah, civil rights is great. But once you start saying, no, actually, they're not supposed to be covered by this, now it's a problem. So I found it funny that she was highlighting the fact that there are so many people out here who have that sentiment, but would be afraid to say it. But they are becoming more emboldened to say it under a presidency that looks the way this one does.
So how's that any different than all the Black people voting for people just because they're Black, or women voting for women because they're women? Like,
no difference.
That seems, I don't know, it's that one issue voting thing.
But that's the thing. Unfortunately, there's no prerequisite for being able to cast a vote. You have an opinion and you want to vote a certain way, you can go do that. It doesn't have to be predicated on any knowledge, any political affiliation, any research. And by and large, a lot of Americans are not interested in doing that kind of work. So that's what you get.
Yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of trying to repeal the 19th, because crazy bitches like that one we just saw on screen shouldn't be voting to begin with.
So would the 2025 version of free speech be able to be weaponized to conduct genocide, do you think?
The 2025 version of free speech? I don't think so. I think now that speech is being opened back up, like legitimately, Elon Musk got Twitter, started firing all these mother crazy bitch word policers. Mark Zuckerberg followed suit. Facebook and Meta, Instagram already lost a bunch of their fact checkers. Hopefully YouTube will also, because I think oppressing speech is one of the things that makes people upset, like that when they feel that they can't speak their fucking mind. And like when people don't listen and people try to get messages out there, and it just gets canceled because somebody, gets their feelings hurt, and they have a report button with a drop down menu to tell the women that work at YouTube all the different ways the words hurt their feelings. Like, people get frustrated and they get pissed off, and I think that kind of stuff is what would lead to genocide. So I think the 2025 version of free speech will actually stop that.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. It does.
Yeah.
I think the 2025 version of free speech cannot be weaponized to conduct genocide simply because of wokeism. I think we saw most recently how people reacted to just not being able to use TikTok for 24 hours. So
Really? How'd people
yeah,
respond to that?
not well at all.
Really?
Not well at all. But
Mm.
those of us who are a little bit more enlightened saw the play that was being made. And so although I am not a user of TikTok, I'm familiar with it, and none of it made me think that we were going to lose access to it indefinitely. I knew when they started talking about banning TikTok that it was a play. And that's exactly what it turned out to be, an opportunity for Donald Trump to not only look like the hero, but also be the arbiter of how free speech can be yanked, one way or the other. So while I don't think the 2025 version of free speech can be used to weaponize or weaponized against or making or facilitating genocide, I do think that because we are living in a participation trophy of it all kind of society where these notions of diversity, equity, and inclusion are ever changing and depending upon what room you're in, it just muddies the water. But when you're talking about it with reference to the Holocaust, for example, I don't think we'll ever be able to see that level of weaponizing in today's climate.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Not in America anyway.
No.
Too many people have phones.
Yes.
Like, with the way technology is.
Yes.
That's why I don't understand, and especially women in today's society, like all these feminists, and they talk about being so afraid of men and this and that. And I was thinking about this yesterday or the day before. I'm like, I've never in my life felt afraid of men before.
What? Say
Like,
that again. You broke up a little bit. You said you would never in your life. What?
I have never in my life felt afraid of men,
Oh, okay.
like as a whole, like as a group. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I've been surrounded by men in my life that are very protective.
Right.
So, and with today's technology, like the internet is forever. Like, people have phones everywhere. Like, it's not hard to call for help if you need it. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. I
Shout
have a
out
hard
to
time.
shout out to Mr. Z. He always says the internet will expose us all.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. I don't know. I think with technology, I think cutting it and cutting people off from it would be more conducive for a genocidal kind of mindset. And looking at the people that are doing the oppressing, like,
Johnny Midnight is hilarious.
yeah, Johnny.
All right, so let's move on to the next topic, which is why Contraversations? Why did we name our channel, show, and content Contraversations? So I wanted to pull up some definitions for us because words mean things.
Yes.
So according to Merriam-Webster, controversial is an adjective and it means of, relating to, or arousing controversy, being disputatious or given to controversy. So I juxtapose the words controversial, traverse, and conversation to come up with that name. And so if we're starting from the root of all three of those words, which is verse, we're having conversation, we're having an oral exchange to examine public disagreement, right? Or giving rise to what could be a public disagreement. That's how I came up with that name. And I just wanted to briefly go into that because I think it's a cute name, but I also wanted people to know like it was built on something other than just it being a cute name. So conversation is defined as oral exchange of sentiments, observations, opinions, or ideas. An instance of such exchange, talking, conduct and behavior, an informal discussion of an issue by representatives of governments, institutions, or groups. And then lastly, traverse, to go or travel across or over, to move or pass along or through, to make a study of or examine. So I think that's a good indication of what we do on this channel and why I think the name is so appropriate. What say you?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so when we were talking about the name, we were just kind of throwing words out there. And I know you're the wordsmith of this duo. So when you brought that up, I was like, ooh, I don't often make up words, but I'm like, that fits. I like it. And knowing why you mentioned that is helpful.
Yeah, I think we were both trying to come up with something kind of kitschy, kind of eye-opening, eyebrow raising, but some of the things that we bounced off of each other were like I thought were good names for segments, but not necessarily for the channel. And when we settled upon this, I wasn't even sure if this was the best name for it. But I think it works. I think it's a great umbrella of what we're presenting and what we do here. Let us know in the comments if you agree. Send us an email if you want to expand more on that. We'll look forward to it. And then let's go ahead and move on to the wild card topic. I think we have a wild card topic to discuss.
Okay. Call-in segments, Johnny. I don't know. That would be fun.
That would be fun. But we got to get some more interaction from the chat before we do that. I think it would call for call-in segments if we were getting more people in the chat asking us questions and being more interactive.
All right, wild card topic. What is it? Because I know what my question is going to be for you now.
Do you want to do that first?
Nope. I'm going to do it at the end.
Okay, hold on. I just got the email. Hold on. Oop. I'm pausing it because I want to share the screen first. Karen got instant karma back on a plane.
Ooh, good. Crazy bitch.
Right.
We've decided Karens are crazy bitches, right? Oh, yeah.
Absolutely no right to do that. You do know the repercussions of your actions right now, right?
Is that you give me my phone back.
I'm gonna give you a chance to apologize because I'm about to go crazy. You can apologize right now before I do something.
I will apologize after you give me my phone back.
Okay, so you're not gonna apologize, right? Right?
After you give
right?
So she's not gonna apologize.
Right?
Oh my God.
Exactly what you deserve.
What in the world?
Next is me.
You just hit a woman?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Oh,
you want
the woman hit him first.
Hit like a man? You want to hit like a man?
Oh my
You
goodness.
hit like a man. Hey, sit down.
Y'all broke can get it.
All right.
No, you had no business accusing my man of stealing.
Exactly.
You had no business doing that.
Exactly.
Then you put your hands on
Exactly.
it. You deserve everything you got.
Right.
I cannot believe you think it is okay to hit a lady.
You just hit me. What are you talking about?
No.
You hit me.
Ladies
What do you think
don't
was going to happen?
I have a hard time reacting to stuff like that because I know it's fake.
Oh, is it? Well,
it was obviously staged.
Did he take her phone though?
That's what the premise is, yes.
Okay. Well, he shouldn't be fucking with her phone, but she shouldn't be putting her hands on him. Like,
I mean, yes, but the fact that it was staged,
that would be
consent
consent to combat.
I agree, but the fact that it was staged kind of takes away from the real reaction that someone would have. Right? From beginning to end, we see them all in a certain position, and even when he hit her, you can tell that he didn't actually connect with her. That was just acting. You know, and I get what they're trying to, get across, but there are things like this that actually do happen. So I would have preferred to see something in real time where there was actually people engaged in actual argument because something was wrong. Something actually happened. Yeah. See, the nameless protagonist said, yeah, this looks like a skit. The principle is similar. The gold is in the comment section of that video. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it gets people talking, sure. But I don't spend my time reacting to stuff that I know is a skit because I know why you're trying to get me to react. I'd rather react to something that is like, oh my God, I'm actually witnessing in real time this big brooding black man just randomly taking some white woman's phone and then her slapping him for it. What's the likelihood of that happening?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in a situation where a woman puts her hands on a man, that is, in my opinion, consent for combat. Like, don't. Like, you start some shit, you better fucking end it. Like,
I'm a big believer
but women
in if you're
can't.
big enough to hit somebody, you're big enough to get hit back, no matter what that person looks like or what your gender is. I'm a big believer in adults keeping their hands to themselves.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Yep.
So what's your question for me?
Oh, okay. So here's my question. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Will you have because we seem to disagree on reparations. And I think we should have a specific stream dedicated to just that.
Sure.
And we should go over it with a fine-tooth comb because I still don't, in the small segment that we had about it, I still don't understand where you're coming from as far as what you mean by reparations.
Okay.
So can we have a reparations only, and what does America owe Black people specifically?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And I'll agree to that if you write the outline for it.
The outline?
Yeah.
Explaining what you mean by reparations?
No, just how you want the conversation to flow.
Oh. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. I think it will be a really fruitful conversation. I think it'll probably give us both some perspective that maybe we were lacking.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. I will
All right,
try
so
to work
you guys
on
can
an
look
outline.
forward to that.
I don't think go. Check it out. Let's call Latoya. Wind it up. Come on, clap your hands. Wind it up.
So yeah, we'll look forward to that. It doesn't have to be next week. It could be the week after, whenever you want to do it. But yeah, start thinking about some questions and some topics we can explore about reparations. And I'm happy to do that because I think there's still more about it that I need to learn. It's not something that I talk a lot about in general, nor do I have any hard-lined opinions about it. I just do believe that some reparations should be explored. But what that looks like, we can talk about it.
Okay, we could explore it.
We can.
Okay.
We
let's
can
do that.
traverse it.
We can.
Yes.
We can.
Yes. I look forward to that.
Okay. So, do we have questions received via email? I feel like we did that. Did we already do that one?
I think we did. I think we
Okay.
covered that. I think this is the conclusion of today's stream. Unless you have anything else you want to add, I want to thank everybody who came through, especially Johnny Midnight for contributing to the conversation and pushing back on us having some call-in options, because obviously the conversation can get fleshed out even more if we get feedback from you guys. So yeah, I think we can at one point even maybe make it so that you can hit the link one at a time and talk to us directly. That might be something we can look into having as well. But we're still building our contraband. So tell a friend to tell a friend. Like, share, and subscribe. Get some more people over here so we can get some more opinions and some more questions. Because I can talk. I'm loquacious. I love to talk. And Amanda already told you she likes to provoke thought. So how can we do that if we don't have any subjects? We got to get more of you guys.
Wow. I think
Our
the
contraband
reparations subject will be a good one.
Yeah, it should be. I think so. I'm excited.
Yeah, because I don't think I have a hard time with the whole owing people today for shit that happened in the past. It's the same the religious realm of, the sins of the father should not be.
Well, if you think about it in financial terms, let's talk about it like home ownership, right? One of your grandparents purchased a home, died without paying it off. Does that debt all of a sudden just become absolved, or is someone responsible for it?
But that's a house.
Yes, I'm using that as an example. When there is a debt to be paid, someone is responsible for it. Yes, we're talking about something tangible with reference to a house, but this is why, to me, reparations is such a much bigger implication, because now we're talking about a population. We're talking about human capital. We're talking about what that human capital built and provided, whom are no longer here to enjoy or be part of. Those of us who are, though, should be able to do so, but a lot of times aren't. So this is where we're talking about, hey, is there a debt to be owed or not? Which can also be part of the conversation. Maybe there isn't a debt, but if there isn't a debt, then what is there? Why is this a conversation?
Yes. Why is it a conversation?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're
The
going to make
nameless
it a
protagonist says,
controversation.
I think the issue of slavery is a little too oversimplified. Start with special orders from General Sherman. Looking at why that was important is because it was offered firstly, then taken away by the planter class after cutting a deal with the new government administration in 1877. So, we'll have to peel back the layers of history before we can even have a conversation about what reparations means in 2025. So I really want to thank you for presenting that information, the nameless protagonist. He is really pouring into this channel in more ways than one. And even with that comment, that might be a good starting point for where you go with the outline for the show.
My outline is going to be very simple.
That's fine. But at least it gives us some framework for where the conversation goes. Since you came up with the question, I would much rather, be a steward of the conversation rather than me trying to figure out what you mean or what you want actually answered.
Okay. I will.
All right.
Work on the outline.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. We look forward to seeing you again next week at the same time, at the same place. And in the meantime, you are always welcome to email your questions and comments at contraversational@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Tom. Bye, Johnny. Good to see you.
Yeah, bye.